let's revise what we saw yesterday. Okay, yesterday we talked. We made a first introduction to the EclerNet platform. Then we overview most of the products of the EclerNet platform. So DoNet, MIMO88SG, which stands for single, so you cannot link them. MIMO88, you remember, the one that has GPOs and the one that you can link to another MIMO88 to make a MIMO1616. NXA amplifiers, okay, so they are multi-channel amplifiers with a digital, with a DSP, and WPNet Touch, which is the screen, okay, the control screen, PageNet DN, which is the paging station with a screen, and the two interfaces, DN44 Bob for in, for out, analog signals, and WP22DN, which is 2 in, 2 out, okay, 2 outputs. It's a wall panel format. Finally, we saw MIMO 4040DN, which is our flagship nowadays. And we saw also in the video section, the VO XTI 2L and VO XRI 2L, okay, the transmit and the receiver 4K. Okay, and afterwards we start seeing the software, EclerNet Manager, okay, and as I said, we are seeing the MIMO completely, because once you understand the philosophy, understanding the other devices is bread and butter. It's very, very easy. Okay, so we started seeing what we have in the input tab, what do we have in the output tab, and what we have in the matrix tab. Okay, remember we saw that the stereo signals should be linked also in the matrix to behave as one. And we saw also the groups option, which we saw mute and volume group and parallel output groups. So there we were, and what we will see today. We will continue with EclerNet Manager software controlling MIMO, and we will see events and presets, pager deckers, analog and digital remotes. We'll talk about the UCP server, and hopefully we will be starting to design UCPs. So that's the plan for today, if everything goes as expected. Okay, so let's start with events and presets. Okay. You have here a button which is events. Okay, so this button opens up these windows where you will have listed all the events that are in your MIMO. Okay, at first, by factory default, there's nothing in it, so you will find a blank window. Okay. What about the presets? Here we can see the presets, okay? If we open up the list, we'll see up to 99 presets, okay? The last two presets, they are 98, which is an emergency preset. It's a regular preset, but the difference between 98 and the other ones is that 98 saves the preset, saves the configuration. Before getting into 98, saves all the configuration of all the device into 99, which is a preset called undo. Let me show you. So if I show you here, let's put MIMO 88, for example. Okay. You go here, you see all our empty presets, okay, up to 97. 98 is an emergency preset, okay, which you can just save as a regular preset. The only difference is when you get into emergency preset, then you see the undo preset is active because before entering to emergency preset, it saves a snapshot of everything. So when you get out of the emergency condition, you can just go to how it was before entering there. Okay, that's the only special thing. If you get into the manual and you look for emergency, you will find a specific chapter for that, which is exhaustively explained. Okay, so here in MIMO 4040, you see the events button is almost the two cursors, two arrows like that, and we have almost the same. Okay, and presets are almost the same as well. There are 99 presets, and there is 98, which is emergency preset, and 99 is undo preset. Okay, so here you have three buttons as well, which is save, copy, and paste. So once you want to make a new preset, you can copy what you have, recall a new preset, which will be an empty preset, and you paste what you had, so you can just start from there to modify and make the new preset. We will see later on. Okay, so what are events? Events, it says in the manual, it says something like, it's a small program routine that is activated when some condition, and let's call it a source or trigger or stimuli, is accomplished. Okay, so there are several types of events. We have analog event, digital simple, digital compound, digital delay, and time scheduler. Okay, so we've got some target or actions. So the event relates a stimulus with an action. So which are the targets we can do? So modifying volume, muting, changing presets, or enable or disabling GPOs. Let's see in a diagram an explanation of this, so to have it clear in our minds. Oh, sorry. Here, okay. So events. Let's start with an analog event, okay? An analog event, the source, okay, the stimulus would be a GPI or a virtual. A GPI can be a potentiometer, okay? The virtual would be a fader, okay? Why they are analog? They are analog because they have the whole range of values between 0 and 100. So you have 67, 43. So you have the whole range of values between 0 and 100. That's why it's an analog event. So what actions, what targets an analog event? Basically volume, okay? So you can just change the volume in the input, the volume in the output, or the volume in the matrix, okay? Volume in the input, which is this volume or this volume. You have to know that this volume here, let's put it in the middle, is the same one like this one. So you're touching the same volume, okay? So volumes in the inputs, volumes in the outputs, okay? Which are these ones. Let's put it in the middle. You see, now this is in the middle. Or volumes in the matrix, which is these ones in the cross points, okay? So that's what you can change with an analog event. Digital event, okay? We have, let's start with the sources. We have GPI, which would be maybe a button or a contact or a relay. We have virtual, which would be a button in a UCP, for example. A pager, which means a button in the EM page, okay? Or because the PageNet already it's a UCP, so it can be also a UCP button. Okay, and this is new for this version. It's the Docker. So let's say it's like a signal detection event or stimulus. So you can configure a Docker. We will see later on. And when the signal on any input it's in the Docker, it gets through the threshold. Okay, and then you can activate a kind of action. Okay, we will see later which are these actions. And also another source can be an event house. So you can concatenate events. You can just the event number 1 can be the trigger of event number 2. So you can just concatenate several events with this option. Okay, so which are the targets? Targets should be digital. You cannot make a turn on or off a volume. So digital means 0 or 1, active or disabled, or 0 or 100, whatever. So 2 states. One action can be muting in the inputs, in the outputs, or in the matrix. Okay, recalling a preset, activating a GPO, and these 2 last ones are special ones for when EclerNet Manager is being is in a PC, meaning that you are not using a WPNet Touch as a UCP server, but a PC that is running your EclerNet Manager, and it's serving the UCPs to other devices. Why? Because the first one, only these 2, the one of the asterisk, okay, the star. Okay, the first one is launch file. Launch file means that you make your computer open another software which is not related to EclerNet Manager, and open a file in it. So, for example, you can open Windows Media Player and play a video or a message. Okay, so you just have one button in your UCP, okay, that can be reached from an external device, let's say a smartphone, and when you push this button, okay, you make the PC that has EclerNet Manager and is serving this UCP will launch whatever you have configured. This is the first one of these special ones, special actions. And the second one is sending an email. Okay, a WPNet Touch cannot send an email, but a PC running EclerNet Manager in deploy mode can send an email to anyone. So besides these 2, the other ones are very common. Okay. Okay, digital delay event. We have seen analog, digital simple. Digital delay is the same one that digital simple, but with a delay in it. So you can put delay of seconds, whatever you want, minutes, hours, days, even years. What for? I don't know. It's just a tool. You use it as you want. Okay, so if you have a reason for making that, when you push a button after 1 year you mute something, it's up to you. So you can put 1 year or 1 second. It's up to you. You have the tool for doing it. Okay. Digital compound. Digital compound. Basically, you have up to 4 arguments. Okay, for inputs. You operate with a logic operator, meaning AND, which is if this this one, if, for example, let's put an example. Maybe you have a GPI1 when it's active, a virtual when is active one of our buttons, and an event output. So, and operator will be if this one and this one and this one are active, then do something. There is another operator which is or, and it would be if this one or this one or this one is active, make something. So you have several operators and or, XOR, NAND, NOR, and XNOR. Okay, so you can find wherever with what are the results of these operations, but you can just combine them to make a more, let's say, complicated condition to make an action. Okay. Another event is time schedule, which is very clear. You see that the actions, I do not talk about the actions because they are always digital actions, so there's nothing to, I mean, they are the same ones, okay? But here we have as a source, as a target, okay? No, not as a target, as a trigger, we have the time schedule, which means that it will be activated whenever we have, for example, on Mondays at 8 o'clock, I want to just activate a GPO. You can do it with the time schedule event, okay? So we also have presets as we announced it, okay? Presets, it's a snapshot of the device settings at the time of saving, but it's not a global preset. You can choose partial preset. So you can choose what to save. In this case, for example, you will save only the values in the matrix. So in the here, no, these values, whatever we have in here, it would be safe if we choose this. Okay, so if you combine events and partial presets, it opens up a lot of possibilities. Okay, let's see some examples. Okay, let's think about this kind of rooms that we have some oftenly in hotels. Okay, so you've got two independent rooms that are divided by a folding wall. So once the folding wall is open, and these two rooms should act as one room. Okay, so in preset 1 we can configure it as separated, and in preset 2 we configure them as together. Then when maybe there is a contact here, a sensor, which activates whenever the folding wall is open. So this contact is connected in the GPIs of the MIMO, okay? So when this contact is active, in the MIMO, there is an event that recalls a preset where the matrix works as one single room using parallel output groups, what we saw yesterday. Do you remember? It was the option that you link two outputs to have the same mix in its output. So you can just make two presets, one with the link groups activated and one with the link groups disabled. So here we have link groups option, and you will be storing two presets with this option active and maybe not the other ones. Okay, so it would be like this. Okay, another example would be having a sensor. Okay, and maybe we want to listen to a message whenever a person walks through here, but we want to launch this message only between 8 in the morning and 8 in the afternoon. Okay, so we would have a GPI, an event, a digital event, digital event simple, which is activated by GPI1, which is the sensor. Okay, the sensor would be connected to GPI1, and then it will take an action, which will be launching a file in a computer, okay, sending a message. As long as the audio output of this computer is connected to the system, maybe back to the matrix, and in an audio input channel, okay, it will be heard wherever we want, okay. But we want this to happen only between 8 and 8. So we need another event, okay, which we will call it event 2. That is a time scheduled event, okay, and we'll recall preset 1, okay. This is a time scheduled event, okay, at 8 in the morning, and it will recall a preset called E1 enabled, so a preset that I created. How is this preset? This preset only is saved the event remote enables, okay? And we will do the same with event 3. So I made this example for you, so to make it step by step, so you can see clearly how it works. First, we add a device here, okay, and we choose a MIMO 88. This is a presentation, so the windows are bigger than usual, so everyone can see, even if you are looking the presentation in a small screen. So these are not usually not that big, okay, but it's made for presentation purposes. Okay, so we add a new device, which we call it museum, okay. There we are. If we double click here, it will open up the window on the right, okay? And we will open events, which is here, okay? This will open this window, and with the right click, we will add a new event, okay? And we will see this window, which I already showed you in the presentation. The event is enabled, event 1, digital simple. So we decide, okay, my sensor is in GPI 1, okay, and I want this sensor to make an action, which will be launching a file, okay. Then it opens up this window. You choose what application to launch. In this case, is VLC, for example. This is Videoland, okay. It's like a player, a video player, okay. And what file will be open with this software? So this file that I have in my folder, music folder, which is called test mp3. Okay, we say okay, this is safe. We say okay, and we have our event listed here. As you see, event 1 test GPI1 launch file. Okay, we have the first event, but we want 2 more. The one that activates in the morning and the one that deactivates in the evening. So what we should do? We should do first saving 2 presets. Okay, we store this one with event remotes enabled. Okay, so we have a preset with this event activated, and we need another preset with this event, and this is the option to disable the event. Okay, now it's disabled, so we save this in a preset number 2, which has event 1 disabled. So now we've got 2 presets, the one that this event is enabled and the one that this event is disabled. The rest of the matrix is the same way. Presets are like masks. If you do not store anything in matrix, the matrix will remain the same. You are just affecting to the event section, okay, with this option. The rest of the matrix will not be affected when you recall this preset. Okay, So we move on and we add a new time scheduled event. Okay, and we decide, okay, we start date, and we are making the event the disabling event because it's a time at 20 in the afternoon, at 8 o'clock in the afternoon, and we repeat it every day, okay, from Monday to Friday. Okay, this is the daily repetition. We repeat every day from Monday to Friday. We have not configured any ending condition, so it will repeat forever. This, okay. Okay, so what to do with this trigger? Okay, I will recall a preset, which is the event 1 disabled, because it's the one of 8 in the afternoon. Okay, so we have event 2. Okay, it's a time schedule event at 8 and is event 1 disabled, so it recalls preset 2. Okay, so we have to make the same with at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, we have to recall a preset, which is preset number 1, that will enable the event. Okay, so what will happen? It will happen this. It will, depending on if at 8 in the morning it will activate, at 8 in the afternoon it will deactivate. So we will jump from one state to the other. Okay. Okay. Let's continue with pagers and dackers. Okay. EM page and UCPs. Okay. This is a MIMO 88, the pagers and dackers section. Lets you configure the application modules based on attenuation or muting the audio signal by another signal. So once we activate the paging or the dacker, and the signals will be attenuated in this value will be the reference. So in this case, it will be 20 dBs. They will be attenuated. The depth is the value that the regular, let's say the background music or whatever is playing is attenuated, giving priority to the dacker or the pager. Okay. As I said yesterday, MIMO 88 has 4 paging modules. MIMO 88 and 1212 SG have 3 paging modules, and MIMO 40x40 have 25 paging modules. Okay, if you do not remember, because you do not explain EclerNet Manager as often as me, okay, you can always go here and see how many modules do you have here. Here we have 4. If you go to, you add a device, MIMO 88 SG, you will see that you have 3. And if you add a MIMO 40x40, okay, you will see pager dackers, you will have 25. So that's it. It's easy to know. Okay. So as you see, here is pagers dackers in MIMO 88. Here is pagers dacker section in MIMO 40x40. Okay. Okay. So what else? We will see how to program this, or the several options we have. Here we choose if it's dacker or pager. Okay. Here we choose which input are we using. So for example, if I'm using input 8 for a message player, I should use this option to choose that is input A. Okay, priority, which means you have to decide which is the first priority, which will be number 1. So it has top priority, and number, in this case 4, will have less priority than number 1. Okay. And here you decide, in the case of the Docker, you decide where to route the signal. So in this case, it will be routed from output 1 to 9. This is quite one small detail, which is important, is that, let's put this example. We have input 8, okay? We have this input A is our player and is our Docker. Some of people tend to do like this. Okay, I want this to be routed to all the output except this one. Okay, this will make that it will be always routed. Okay, so if this threshold is, it will be always activated. Okay, so what you have to do is not selecting anything here, okay, and selecting from this side. Okay, this would be Docker 8. Okay, and you choose here what outputs are affected by this Docker. And the same it happens with the pager. If you have a pager, you do not have to select any cross point in the matrix. Okay, it will be the pager Docker's module who will take care of this. So you don't have to put any cross point there. Okay. Okay. Here is the tagging indicator. So whenever this is activated, it will be in green. It's not a button, but an LED. So if we program an event with the Docker as a trigger, okay, a signal detection, whenever this is in green, it will activate that event. Okay, so if you root or you do not root, it's not important. It will be activated anyway if it even if it's not routed to any output. Okay, so it's a condition that can be done in any case. Here you have the nodes to adjust the several parameters, the threshold, the depth, which is the attenuation of the regular signal, and the parameters of time of release, attack, and hold. Okay. In the case that we have a pager, is more or less almost the same. Okay, but here we have the melody, which I always say we have two melodies. One is ding dong ding, and the other one is ding dong dang, and that's it. Or known. We can just select known, not any melody. We also have a new thing here in the, if we choose pager, which is F1 and F2, okay, which relates to these two buttons here in the paging station. Okay, F1 and F2. It's just if you want to have one floor, we have one floor with 4 zones and another floor with another 4 zones or whatever, and you want to group it, so you can just group it here, and whenever the user pushes this button, the several zones, the ones that you have selected here, will be activated. Okay, you also have all and clear. Another thing is that here in this section, if we talk about the pager, we decide which zones can the pager can page. So in this case, output 10 to 16 and output 7 will not be able to be selected from the paging station. Okay, they can activate or send a message or not to the ones that are gray, but to the black ones, they cannot even send anything. But you can use, for example, zone 16 as a button for, I don't know, for launching a message in a PC or whatever. So it can be a trigger in an event, okay? How to connect EM page? Well, EM page, you have to connect for the with the bus scan, okay? It's a bus that goes from the EM page, the paging station, to the MIMO 88. But remember, you have to connect the audio also. So how it works is, here in the bottom of the paging station, you have here an RJ45, okay? Here in number 2 is the power supply, okay? MIMO 88 and 1212 can support one paging station for sure, and 2 paging stations depending on the distance, okay? So it might happen that if there's a long distance between the second paging station, you might require the power supply. But you don't have to worry because the power supply is included with the product. So you will always have it with you, okay? The RJ45, okay, it's connected like this because on the other side, we've got a Euro block connector. This one is taking care, remote one is taking care of the control, so of the buttons, okay? And then we have to get a pair of cables which are used for the audio of the signal. So you just plug it into whatever input you need. Also, another thing about EM page is also compatible with hub, which is something, another matrix, okay, switching matrix, not mixing matrix, that can be, that is out of EclerNet. So it's not an EclerNet product. But the reason why I tell you this is that it comes configured for hub, the EM page. So as EclerNet users are more clever, you have to change the jumpers which are inside. There are 2 jumpers that have to be changed, okay, because the communication is different. You have to change 2 jumpers, and there's also, because this digital bus needs a 120 ohm termination, there is another jumper and that activates the internal termination of the EM page. So there are 3 jumpers to be changed, okay? Because hub is a more simple product, okay? Is configured for hub, and then the advanced users of EclerNet, like you will be an advanced user, need to know this kind of things. Okay, what about if I need 2 paging stations? Okay, so for example, MIMO 88SG and 1212SG has only 1 remote port, okay? How do we have to connect this, okay? With the EM page comes a RJ45 Euro block adapter, and you can take advantage of this because they have to be connected in daisy chain, okay? This means one after the other, from the matrix to the first EM page, and from the first EM page to the second EM page, okay? You cannot connect from remote 1 to the EM page and from remote 1 to the second EM page. This is not possible, okay? Well, physically it is possible, but it will not work properly, okay? So you have to connect in daisy chain from 1 EM page to the next one. And the last one, even if we have another one here, then the last one will have to have this jumper on, the one of the termination, the 120 ohm termination is, you have to activate it in the last one. In the first or second, the ones that are not the last ones, okay, you don't have to put any termination. So that's the difference, okay. Okay, this is everything is in the manual, but just to have put a seed here in your minds that you have to change some jumpers. Then you go to the manual and you perfectly see which jumpers you have to change. But you have to remind this so you do not have any trouble installing this. Okay, I talk about daisy chain for the bus, okay, but you also have the audio, and the audio is connected directly to each MIMO, okay. So if you got 2 paging stations, you need 2 inputs to be used, okay. Okay, so remotes, okay. Let's talk about remotes, but not remotes, but because the EM page is, it has a microphone, but the console itself is a remote, it's for controlling the MIMO. So you have to add it to the remotes list of your MIMO, the EM page. So you go to the remote section and you add an EM page, okay? Okay, and then you say, okay, this EM page is assigned to module number 1, okay, to pager number 1. So you identify the physical EM page and you say, okay, this remote takes control of pager number 1, which is the module that I have configured for paging, for paging purposes, okay? It's not a tracker, it's a pager, okay. What about connecting PageNet in MIMO 4040 DN? Okay, you just plug one cable to the network, which has the EclerNet control and also Dante, okay, Dante signals. And MIMO 4040 as well has to have 2 cables, one for controlling and the other one for Dante, okay, for receiving the audio signal. That's it. Remember that you have in the EM page, you have an extra Dante transmitter for player, okay? Remember, you have some RCAs in the bottom of the unit, and you can use it for that purpose or whatever you want. Okay, so, and what about using PageNet in MIMO 88, MIMO 88 SG or 1212 SG? So in the previous matrices. Okay, the PageNet is connected for the control, so the UCPs that you can just store here, and you control the MIMO through these controls, okay, through the network. But what about the audio? Okay, the easiest solution, if the installation allows you to do this, is having the analog output of this microphone to the input, the corresponding input of your matrix. Then you will lose the possibility to add here a player, okay, because the player is only transmitted in Dante, is not in the analog output here, okay. Okay, I think that it. Another possibility would be to add a WP22DN and just having this Dante signal on the place that is the rack of the MIMO, okay. This is obvious. Okay, so we have talked how to connect PageNet, but what about how do we make these buttons? Okay. Okay, we have some templates in our website that you can download, because it's quite time-consuming making a console of 40 buttons. So we made it for you. And each and every button points to a pager. So here in this example, you have a UCP, and we have selected this button, and this button points to device number 1. Okay, pager 1, zone 1, select. Okay, so you've got that selection in there. So once you push here in deploy mode, zone 1 will be selected. So we have done this for each and every button and each and every LED. Okay. Okay. Remotes, EclerNet Manager. Now we will see how to connect several remotes and how to configure them in the software. Okay. A contact. You connect it into a GPI between in the case of a MIMO, 12 volt and the cursor. Okay. This is a switch or a relay or a sensor. Okay. So you add an event, add new, and this would be a digital simple event in GPI 1. Okay. Here GPI 1. So each time this contact is activated, then you can choose what action to do. Okay. Output mute, whatever. WPA vol. Okay. These are the colors that, because in the back they have an RJ45, these WPA controllers. So these are the standard colors of a Cat5 cable. Anyway, you have it in the manual. Okay, you don't have to worry about this. And how we configure it? We add an event as well. And we choose an analog event, and we decide, okay, it's in this case is GPI 1 as well. So we put it here, and we configure what action to do, what target. Okay, output volume. That's right. WPA vol SR. Okay, attention here. Okay, this is not so easy. Why is not so easy? Okay, you connect to GPI 3 and GPI 4 because these are two potentiometers. Okay, but usually what is this controlling? Is controlling the source between a selection of 5 sources. Maybe this is off, and you have 4 more sources, and the volume. But you want to control the volume at that source. Okay, so, and most of the times, let's think about there's an EM page. Most of the times you do not want this volume to affect to the messages. Okay, so you want this volume to affect only to the cross point between, in this case, between source number 2 and whichever this the output is. Okay. So just we want to control the cross point, because if we control the output, let me show you here. We control the output, we will be affecting to the EM page or whatever message signals are being routed to the output. So we want just to affect to the cross points. Okay. So depends on what we have selected. It depends what will this control, which cross point will control the volume. Okay, so it's quite different. We cannot do an event because it's something more complicated, and we have to add it as a remote. Okay, in the remote section, so there is a plus here, and we add an analog remote. Okay, add new remote, analog remote. And we choose carousel. Okay, there's 2 options, none or carousel. So for sure it will be carousel, even if we don't know what it is. Then you have here the selector. Okay, this is selector section. Okay, and here we have the volume. Okay, so in the selector section, we got here, we decide the output number 9, and we decide a carousel. We still don't know what is a carousel. Okay, let me show you what is a carousel. It's this. Okay, something where your kids just jump on, and there is quite nice little ponies, white and blue and pink and green. No, just joking, but it's the concept. You will remember more the ponies after this presentation that whatever else. A carousel is a list of selectable options. Okay, so here we have the button of carousel, and if we open up, it will appear a window that is the carousels list window, and you have several carousels lists to be chosen. So you can choose one of them and decide, okay, I want to make a list of inputs. Okay, and in this case we have selected these inputs, no, input 1, 3, 5 and 8, and the off option. So they are 5 options, 5 possible options. Okay, so these are the options that can be selected in output number 9. Again, we have inputs, a list of inputs. I have made a carousel list, which is the list number 2. Okay, and I have said to the selector, okay, we are controlling output number 9, and the selection that are possible, the possible choices, you are listed in carousel number 2. Okay, okay, so the cross points that I have to control, it depends on the selection of the carousel I have. Okay, I hope it's clear. If not, later on we will answer any questions. So here we have GPI 3 for selector, GPI 4 for the volume, and here we decide in the carousel which inputs are we choosing with these options and which output are we controlling. And here we select the cross points. Okay, so depending on the cross point that I have selected, the volume, it will be affect to that cross point or not. Okay, keep in mind another detail, but just to keep in mind, WPA vol comes also configured for the more simple devices like CA amplifiers or other devices. Okay, so for the more clever men, okay, so we are the EclerNet men, we have to change jumpers. You have to remember to change jumpers. Jumper number 1, so for digital devices, and jumper number 2, because we are using in MIMOS, we are using 12 volt. Okay, so by factory, you see, it comes from in analog anti-logarithmic mode and 10 volt. So they both have to be changed. If not, they will not work properly. Okay, it just it will happen strange things. Digital remotes connecting WPNet 4KV to MIMO 4040. Okay, here, as they are connected to the network, okay, it's a device in my device list. Okay, we add a device and we add a WPNet 4 key. Okay, so it's listed in my device list because it's connected to the, it's in the project. It's not connected to a device. And here we configure the network parameters. Okay. Then once it's connected to the project, then we add it to our MIMO 4040. And we say, okay, I have a remote, okay, and I add it to my MIMO 4040. And here I have the same concepts, selector and volume on mute. So here we have also the same. Which output is this remote controlling, and which carousel is assigned to this remote. Again, a carousel is a list of things, so you can use the same list for several remotes if it's what you want. So you do not have to create one list per remote, but you can use the same list in several places. Okay. Connecting WPNet 4KV R. Okay. What's the point? WPNet 4KV and 8K and WPNet X were made to control MIMO 4040, so they were born for that purpose. But as they were very successful, and the people wanted to just use them for the previous MIMOs, okay, MIMO 1212, SG, 88 SG, and 88. We managed to a workaround to use it with that kind of devices. So, but this is a special firmware. So you have to change the firmware and change the firmware of WPNet 4KV to one that you will find in the firmware's package. That is WPNet 4KV R. Okay. The same for 8K and the, okay. So you need to install this one, and you can add it here, but we will add it as a virtual. But this is a concept we still have not introduced, and I prefer just keep it in the drawer, and we will talk about later on. Okay, so it's more understandable if I explain this afterwards. Okay. WP8 key. WP8 key is the same, connected to the MIMO 4040 DN. It's quite easy. You just add the device to the network and select in the remote tab, select the WP8 8 key, sorry, and we assign it a carousel, okay? A carousel of inputs or a carousel of presets. We can make also carousels of presets. So, and we assign it to a, in this case, if it's for inputs, we assign it to an output, okay? So we have a sources or preset selector, 8 key. We can have a 12 key V, which is a 4 key V plus an 8 key. You have to connect them in between the other. It comes a cable in the 8 key, okay? And just to have more options visible at one glance, okay? So if there are more than 12 options, also it will appear next, like in the 4 key when you have more than 4 options, okay? So you decide it's a WPNet 12 key, and you assign an output, a carousel, and the volume pointing to the cross points. WPNet X, MIMO 4040, which is the physically is exactly the same as a 4KV. So the only, or the difference mainly, is that you have more things to control. So you can have two carousels, a carousel of presets and a carousel of sources with the volume. And you can also have an equalizer. So you can just control 3 filters of the filters that you, of the input section, okay? No, sorry, of the input or the output, depending on what you have selected here. So what are the filters you have in the filter section? Okay, so let's, here, it will be 3 of these filters, or 3 of these filters. The first ones. If you want to choose 3 or 2 or 1, okay, it's up to you. Okay, so now we'll talk about UCP server. UCP server, what for? If we need to use UCPs, we need a UCP server. But I will say the other way around as well, because sometimes people believe that we cannot control anything without having UCPs. You can just having analog controls and controlling the MIMO like that, and you do not need any UCP server. So it's only when you need screens, okay, for controlling, that you need a UCP server, okay. So, and these screens, you will need a UCP server, which is the master, and then you will have other devices, which are called clients, that will get through the network to this device, and this device, the server one, will serve these UCP panels. So they will point to this IP, and UCP panels will be provided. Okay, even if we are in Wi-Fi. Okay, so these devices have to be in the same network than the UCP server in order to receive these UCP panels. Okay, who can act as a UCP server? As we have seen, WPNet Touch, okay, PageNet DN, MIMO 4040 DN, PC with EclerNet Manager in deploy mode, okay. Remember, MIMO 4040 DN, you do not have any UCP server in previous models of MIMO. So we don't have a UCP server in MIMO 88 SG or 1212 SG or MIMO 88, okay. Who can act as a client? Well, almost the same devices, WPNet Touch, PageNet DN, PC with a browser. Oh, I forgot one letter here. Like Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, whatever. And Android and Apple devices with our application, okay? Okay, so sometimes working with a UCP server is quite confusing if you don't have the concept very clear in your mind. So I want to just get through this a couple of times, okay, with a graphic help, so to have it clear, and later on we can just revise if you don't have it clear. Afterwards in the question and answer section. Okay, so let's think about an installation. And you are designing an installation, okay? Day 0, you are at home or in the office, wherever you are working, and you are making the project offline. So you do not have any device, okay? Then you make the first version of your project and you save it into your laptop or computer, okay? And let's think about the laptop, so we can move to the installation with the same computer. Okay, we have the version, and whenever you work in local mode, so you are not connected to anything, here it will appear the IP of your computer, and it will say local, okay? But it will always show the IP. If you don't have any IP, it means that you don't have selected the interface to which you should connect to the EclerNet platform network, okay? So, for example, here I have this IP and it says local. If I do not have any here, okay, if I have not selected any interface, here it says local and it doesn't show any IP. So this is the first thing you have to do when you get into, and this is why it says show this at the startup, okay? And you have to have this option selected. So each time you open EclerNet Manager, you will be prompted to choose the network adapter. So in my case, is this one. If you say cancel, then you will not have IP. You won't be able to connect to anything, okay? So first choose the network interface you will use to connect to the devices, okay? Okay. So, quite important. And you go with your computer to the installation, okay? You have an installation with a MIMO 88 and WPNet Touch, and you want this to be the UCP server when you leave, okay? So you connect your computer to the network, okay? And you open your file, okay? It has an option to enable or disable the UCP server. And you connect and send, which means that you will send this project with its UCPs to the WPNet Touch, okay? Whenever, just to point out, when you connect and send here, you see, then you're connected to this UCP server and it changes. This means that I'm online with a UCP server. So here is written the WPNet Touch IP address. In this case is 0100 and the name of the device. In this case, it was named screen. So, okay. So once you have sent this and you just check everything is okay, you disconnect, okay? Okay, and when you disconnect, it says you want to update and you say yes. And then you it sends the last project, so the one that you have modified with the values and the final adjustment, you send it to the WPNet Touch, okay? And once it's sent, you disconnect. So you get again to your local IP and it says local, and the project disappears. Disappears meaning disappears from the screen of the software, but you have it here and you also have a backup here. Remember always to have backup files, okay? From EclerNet Manager products and for any file you have in your computer. Okay, so you go to your home and obviously the user, this installation is new and the user is very excited, okay? And he can't stop touching and trying and just surfing across the UCPs. So he will adjust his volumes and select his sources, and maybe he calls you and says, okay, but I want another button. In room number 2, I want to select also background music 2, and there's only a button of background music 1. Okay, so because you are very, you want to have the client happy, let's say, you go to your installation at night, okay? But be aware that this project here inside is not anymore the one that you have saved, because the user have made some changes. He has changed the value. He has changed the what you have left there just for user changing. Okay. Okay, so you go there at night and you connect back again. What to do? Open this file? No, it's much better if I get this file because it has the latest adjustments that the client has made. So you connect and get, and you receive these projects in your computer. Okay. Once you have it in your computer, you add this button, you make the adjustments you've been told to do, you save this file in your laptop, so you have a backup file, okay? And then once you are finished, you say, okay, disconnect. And it says the software, you want to update? Then you say, yes, of course. And this is sent and renamed as version 2. Okay, day 2, the user keeps on changing things and he wants another change. Okay, this is not version 2 anymore, it's version 2 modified. So you just connect and get, you receive the project, and you make another backup file and you disconnect. So you keep on going like this for any modification. That's a recommendation. In case the user breaks the WP8 touch because they had a fight and they just crash into the WP8 touch, and you buy another one, you have always this backup file. So once you install the new WP8 touch which has no UCPs, okay, you open up this and you will say connect and send. Then yes, you say connect and send, and it will be updated with the latest model. Well, the project version 3, the latest changes you have made there. Okay, but that's it's the way. It's the more clear way of working and not getting confused. Just using connect and get and disconnect. Okay. Okay, let's see it in a practical way. Okay, so I've got here a MIMO 4040. So I open the EclerNet Manager, and we have here my local IP. Okay. And this is the attention online and unused device list. Okay, online and unused device list. So I have 2 devices which are not being used. It's a MIMO 4040 and a PageNet. I have to see this, I have to click on the U here in the left bottom corner. Okay. Okay. So I drag and drop my MIMO 4040 here, and I leave it in all, and it's added into my project. This is a new project. Okay. Okay. So if I connect and send, and I choose connect and send to this UCP server, okay, the one that has the MIMO 4040, okay, we will see how this has changed. Okay, let's go back. This is local. I say connect and send to the MIMO, and this changes to my the IP of the MIMO. Now I'm connected to that UCP server. So once I disconnect, okay, because I've made all the changes, it says, do you want to update the project in the UCP server? Yes, it's sending, and then it sends back again. Here we don't have anymore the project, and it turns to local and my IP here in the top. But attention, where is my MIMO 4040? It's not anymore in the network. Why I cannot see it here? Because this is the online and unused device list. So this is online, but it's not unused. It's being used by a UCP server. Which one? The one that is inside MIMO 4040. Okay, so I cannot reach MIMO 4040 anymore in my life? No. If you go to UCP server, connect and get, you will have here two UCP servers. Which ones? The one of PageNet and the one of MIMO 4040. So if I get the project of MIMO 4040, I will have my MIMO 4040, and I will have here my project here. Okay. Again, I'm connected to MIMO 4040. Okay, let's say I add the PageNet also to my project. Now I have two devices, and I disconnect. Do you want to update? Yes, I want to update. Sending, and both devices disappear. You see, there's nothing in the list. Why? Because they are being used. They are in the network, but they are being used, so they will not be listed unless the UCP server is disconnected. So if I go to my MIMO and I take the network connection, then it will appear the PageNet, not the MIMO, but because I have it disconnected, but the PageNet. Okay. Again, if I go connect and get, and I get the UCP server, the MIMO UCP server, I will get both devices. Okay. Disconnect, upgrade, update. That's it. Okay. What happens is if I open the file, okay, let's say I have saved the file, it will happen this. I open the file that I have, the backup file of my projects with the two devices, okay, then I will have MIMO 4040 and PageNet. And why they are not connecting? Because they are being used by the UCP server of the MIMO 4040. So this is not the way to connect to a already running project with a UCP server. Okay, you have to connect and get to the UCP server to disable it, and then you will find your devices. Okay, I hope it's clear. In this case, the only if I want to connect, I can do connect and send. Okay, and then I will send the project, but I will overwrite the project which is in MIMO 4040. So now I say connect, and I'm overriding the project that was already there. If it's what you want, it's okay. But usually the one that is there is the last one for sure, and it's the one that the user wants to be modified. So for sure, that is the last one the user has seen. So just to make it clear. Another detail, very important detail. Here we have an schematic of a new installation. Okay, we have the IPs correctly determined in each and every device. Okay, but all of these devices can be UCP server. Okay, so in a system, we have only in a project, we should only have one UCP server. And by factory defaults, each and every device that can be a UCP server comes with a UCP server enabled. So in order not to get confused, I recommend you to disable the rest of the devices that are not a UCP server. So in this case, maybe we want this to be the UCP server. Okay, that's why I put this symbol. So I will disable each and every UCP server in the network. Why? Okay, as long as the UCP server has a blank project, it doesn't happen anything. But if you send the same project to 2 UCP servers which are enabled, they will fight to get the devices through the network. So it can happen that when you turn on the system, one UCP server gets 2 devices and the other one gets another 2. So it will not work because they will be 2 different projects, 2 different systems in one network. So please just decide which one is your UCP server and disable other UCP server options. So you will not get confused and you will never send a project to a UCP server which is not the one that you have decided. Okay. Okay. So we have half an hour and we will start designing UCPs. UCPs, examples. We have several examples. Okay, they are custom made. So we have some templates. I will show you later on, but you can do whatever you want. Okay, so when you design UCPs, okay, you will select here this section where you have the list of user control panels you have in your project. You will use also the auxiliary window in P, which is properties, not U, P, because then you see the properties of the selection you have made in the UCP. So here is button 1 selected, and here you see the parameters that are in this object. And you also change between design and deploy. The manual says something like in design mode, you can make critical changes that will affect to the properly working of your project. So in deploy mode, it does not allow to make these changes. So we always work on design because we are the clever ones, let's say. But here in the UCPs, the point is that in design mode, you are designing, so you can see this. In deploy mode, you are acting in the UCP as a user, so you will be able to click on this button and select this selection. So it's like the 2 options. So what happens in deploy mode? Well, we have the EclerNet Manager UCP server active. So when you are in design, if you point to this IP, you will receive this. User control panels disabled. Server is currently in design mode. If you are in deploy mode and you point to this IP, which is the IP in this case of my PC, when you click on deploy, it changes, waiting for project deployment. It loads the project, and then you will find whatever UCPs you have in your project. Okay, so you could just see. Notice that you can see the UCPs. Okay, notice that I'm in the user control panel, and this is Google Chrome, and it's the address is localhost. Okay, which is the same that if I use the IP of my laptop, which is this one. Okay, it's just a trick of an IT trick. Okay, instead of writing 192, 168, 0, and 18, I can just put localhost here, and it's the same. Okay, Okay, so I can just reach my UCPs with Google Chrome or whatever I have in my laptop, so I can see. It's a way to check. You have in the screen EclerNet Manager on one side, seeing what happens in the matrix, and we have the UCP on the other side of my screen, and I can click on the several controls, okay, because this is in deploy mode, and I will see what happens in the matrix. It's a way of checking if I'm doing the right things, okay? You can do this, and it works for almost everything, but not for everything. There's some things that will never work because they need, in offline mode, I mean, because they need a matrix, a device to answer to these controls. So I will explain you because it's mainly in virtuals, okay? Okay, so what do we have in a UCP? We have here UCP user control panels. We have several panels, which usually one panel means one physical panel, and each panel has a menu in the properties menu where you define resolution, you define the users that can access to that UCP, and it's the place you insert pages, okay? Page number 1, 2, 3 in this case, okay? In the page, you define, in the properties window, you define the background, and it's the place to insert controls or layers. Here you can just, in this tree, you will see the objects, the volumeter, the button, whatever. And you also can see layers. What is a layer? It's a place to insert more controls and more layers. Basically, it's a folder. It's like a folder in a laptop. So to make it in a tidy way and a structured way, I recommend to use layers and layers, in lots of layers, okay? It's an advantage to be using layers. Okay. So here we have, for example, a tree. You see, here's the panel, here's a page, and here's are the objects, and here we have the layers. And we right click on the UCP and we can add a control, okay? Or directly here in the bottom also is a direct connection. And here we will have the list of things to insert, okay? Let's see a little bit what we have to insert, okay? Have rectangles, so we can divide our UCP into zones. Okay, this is a rectangle as well, and here in the top also we have a rectangle. We have images. Keep in mind this is not Photoshop, so you cannot crop the image and you cannot resize the image. It has to be inserted as you want, as exactly with the pixels you need. Okay. So remember about the pixels and the resolution, okay? WPNet Touch is 1280 by 800 pixels, okay? You can find it in the datasheet. Regarding this, EclerNet Manager, by default, when you open a panel, it opens up with 800 by 480 resolution, which was the former screen we had. So just keep in mind that you have to choose what resolution. The usual thing is using the resolution of the panel you are using. Anyway, it has auto match, so it resizes to the maximum to the screen. So if you have a UCP panel which is 800 by 480, it will be resized to fill all the screen. But if it's less resolution, maybe you will find that you can see the pixels, okay? So you have to be aware a little bit about resolutions. Okay, so you can place an image and you can move it and around and place it where you want. You can put static text. You can just add LEDs, view meters, faders, which are buttons that slide up and down, and behind the button there's an image, okay, which is scale. Also regular buttons. We have dynamic text, and the more commonly usage of this is, or the use of this is, for example, in DuoNet, you can just see the tags that are in the file you are playing, okay, or the time elapsed, the time remaining, several items, okay. You can also show presets, the name of the presets in MIMO, for example. So you can put names that maybe the user wants to know if you're in a UCP. So he knows if you are in normal mode or night mode or whatever. Increment and decrement buttons, page link buttons that are just to navigate from one way to the other. Multi-buttons, that's a key that triggers several actions, okay? And I want to highlight here a new feature, which is not mentioned here, but I will revise it tomorrow maybe. That here, there's a new feature that you can put buttons one on the other in our UCP. And when you click on there, you will click all the buttons at the same time. What means this? Up to now, this multi-button just it was for a batch of actions, and that can be made with the regular button. Okay, so it was quite nice, but you could not change of UCP page. Okay, at the same time that, for example, you loaded a preset. Okay, because they were two different types of buttons. Okay, and button multi didn't have the page link function. Now it's possible. You put a page link button, and on it you put another button, so you can just recall a preset at the same time you jump from page to page, which is something quite useful. And here UDP string, okay, this is quite interesting, and we will cover this tomorrow as well. It sends a defined UDP text string to a defined IP and port to control external devices, like not only Ecler devices, but also whatever that accepts a UDP or TCP string. So here, if we are in our project and we right-click on the title, okay, it will say import panel, okay. And in the software and firmware package, you will find a folder called Basic Controls EclerNet Manager, and inside it, there's another folder called Basic Panels, okay. And you will find something called Controls Library that I made myself, okay. And you will find this, okay. This is basically all the controls you have here in the controls library, okay, in a visual mode. So you can just copy them from here to your UCP, the one that you are creating. So you have all the controls you've got in the other site, in the other folder. You've got You got them here, so you can copy, see them, see the size, and copy them to your UCP. Okay. So there's lots of faders. Okay. Recently we have made this horizontal fader also, and one LED perimeter, and you see different sizes. Okay. And also a miscellaneous section where I just paste some of the ones that I've made that may be useful for you. Okay. Also in this folder, you will find the basic panels library. This is the resolution, so it's made for WPNet Touch or PageNet. Okay. And you have VO panels and also audio panels. Okay. Basic ones. Okay. A player panel, volume, and volume of one zone, and a 4 zones, let's say, controller. So you can select each button and the fader, and 140 zones paging UCP. Okay. Okay, so let's stop here, I think. Let me show you this. User control panels, click on the right click, import panel. Okay. And I go to the basic panels. In my case, I have it here. Here, the controls library. Okay, is it a little bit big, so it's recommendable to use it and then delete it, because it's a lot of controls here, and it's a memory that you will use and can be saved if you delete it. Okay, so we've got this Stellania, but you can also import panels like these ones. Okay, so here we have them. We also can use these ones, import panel, these ones 800 by, which were, okay. But as long as you load them onto WPNet Touch, you will see if you are close to WPNet Touch, you will see some pixels in there. But okay. And I also wanted to show you that we've recently also added here software EclerNet Manager. In software, we just recently added this file, okay, which is EclerNet Manager extra UCPs, okay. So you can download it, and I can show you whatever is in there. Extra panels, okay. No. So as it has lots of controls and images, it's also quite heavy file. Here we are. So here we have some extra panels in, you see, one to launch messages, maybe to have 2 players in one UCP. Okay, 2 players. Some of these are from our showroom. Some are from projects that I've been involved. Okay, so you can just take advantage of this, and instead of starting from blank and from the beginning, from scratch, you can just take advantage of this these already made UCPs and just modify it or copy entire sections. I don't know, maybe you are happy with this, okay, the audio section, and say, okay, this I want to copy this one and use it in my new in my new UCP. Okay, I add a UCP and then I add a page, and then I have to change the resolution. Okay, so and I paste it here, paste. Okay, and I start from here. Okay, so I can just say 300. Okay, and I can start from here and to modify it. Obviously, it will not work because the names of the objects are not pointing to a device that I have. But well, I can just, it's always faster modifying than building up this from scratch. Okay, so you just can, I don't want this button or whatever, you can just change it to your taste. Okay, so well, I think that that's all for today.